So the next story which I'll read for tonight is called My Aunt Gave Birth to Something Not Quite Human. I entered the room, the smell of a decomposing body wafting out through the hallway. Nearly retching, I put my face into the crook of my elbow, trying to breathe through my shirt, smelling the fabric softener and cologne I used. It didn't completely cover up the disgusting odours. It reminded me of putrefying meat with undertones of rotting tomatoes. I saw the man sitting there, his throat slashed from ear to ear, his head barely connected to his torso. Laughing up quickly, I turned to get the hell out of there, and then saw the silhouette. An arm with a huge butcher's knife was raised in the dark, about to come down on me. Screaming, I flailed my arms, backing away quickly, and falling over the stairwell balcony. I landed hard on my side, hearing something in my left arm crack. A wave of nausea and pain overtook me. Hyperventilating on the floor, I wondered how it could have come to this. I went to visit my aunt after years of not seeing her. She lived on the West Coast, and I lived near Boston. As I got more and more news about her declining health from my extended family, I realized I probably would have only one last chance to see her. "Jake," she said, hugging me tightly as I entered her home. I held her back, noticing how she stooped and how frail her old body felt. She trembled slightly with every breath, coughing as she pulled away. Her eyes had sunken, her cheekbones extremely visible in her emaciated face. She looked like she had aged 20 years in the last 5. "I'm so happy to see you again," she continued. I nodded, smiling back at her. "Where's Uncle Bob?" I asked, referring to her husband and my uncle. She waved her hand dismissively. "He's upstairs. He hasn't been feeling too good lately. Getting old isn't for sissies, you know," she said, laughing slightly before being overtaken by a coughing fit. I nodded again, happy to see her in such a good mood. "But come in, I was just making lunch." The smell of freshly baked bread and turkey rose from the kitchen, making my stomach growl. I had eaten some peanuts and drank a couple of beers on the plane ride over here, but that hadn't done much to satiate my hunger. "Jamie, will come in, mate. Was cracking to see you reading, so keep quiet. Hope you're doing well." "Yeah, I'm doing not bad, man. I'm doing not bad. So this isn't the usual stream. I'll continue the theme was, I guess horror would be the thing. But I hope that the weekend's great. It will be had fun with your family. But as for now, I'll get on with the story. If I can remember where I got to. Walking in, I saw photos of my father and mother lining the hallway. They had been killed by a drunk driver a few years earlier, and just seeing the happy, gleeful faces here made me feel depressed about it all over again. I turned my head away, looking at the photos on the other side of the hall. They showed a much younger Aunt Gretchen and Uncle Bob riding horses in Montana, and her younger sister Aunt Beth posing in front of the Great Pyramids with my grandparents, and standing next to the Grand Canyon with my father. They had always loved to travel. "How was your plane ride?" she asked, making small talk as she poured us both our iced tea. "Terrible as usual," I said. "I got sat next to a fat guy and he just kept on passing gas the entire goddamn plane ride." She laughed uproariously at this. It wasn't that funny. Everyone around was getting pretty mad, actually. "Well, at least it's over," she said, grinning, showing me her false teeth. For some reason, that grin sent shivers down my spine. "Yeah, at least it's over." We talked about work and her retirement and our extended family as we ate. I kept wondering if Uncle Bob would join us. "Doesn't Uncle Bob want any food?" I asked, near the end of the meal. "Hi, Sulphur, how's it going? Can you do the quick story I'm going to send you?" "Yes, I can, Sulphur. Just send me and I'll give it a read. If his worries I don't get banned for reading it." She waved her hand at this. "I'll bring something up to him," she says. "He has been working on a project upstairs." "Huh?" I thought to myself. First he's not feeling good, and now he's working on a project. I got up, patting my full belly. My keys jingled in my pocket. I had a rental car. I had put the key for it on my keychain next to my police mace, Swiss Army knife, tape measure, and other random trinkets. "Fancied vetchin'? I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette," I said. She was zipping it out the kitchen, cleaning up the meal, and humming to herself. I knew the song, "We'll Meet Again" by Fedolin. It gave me chills. With shaking fingers, I fumbled a Camel from my pack, stepping out onto the porch and lighting it. The sweet odour of the Turkish tobacco mixed with the smells of spring outside. The peace and tranquility of rural life was a full display here. Across the street was a small pond filled with geese, weeping willows surrounding it. Ancient groves of trees extended as far as the eye could see in both directions. Our nearest neighbour was over half a mile away. As I smoked and contemplated sitting on the old rocking chair on our front porch, I worried about Uncle Bob. I would have to go up and see if he was okay. Something was not sitting right here. My instincts were going wild, telling me to get out, but I didn't know why. I threw my cigarette in the ashtray, jetting up and going inside. Aunt Gretchen was nowhere to be seen. Slowly and quietly, I went up the stairs. They creaked with each step, but no one came out. I couldn't hear Aunt Gretchen in the kitchen anymore, and I couldn't hear her water running either. I got to the top floor and began checking the rooms. That was when I found Uncle Bob, his throat slashed from ear to ear. He had clearly been dead a long time. Yes, I thought to myself, something is very wrong here. That was the moment I was attacked. I awoke on the hardwood floor, and after what I thought may have been a few seconds of unconsciousness, my arm bent in the wrong direction. I could see the bone poking out through the skin. I wanted to vomit. That blood dripped out of the torn skin and splintered bones staining the floor. "Jake," someone said, coming down the stairs. It wasn't Aunt Gretchen. It was a male voice, deep and slow. I looked up as a newcomer reached the bottom step of the cuffed staircase and came into view. "Who are you?" I asked neatly. "Why are you doing this?" "Me? I'm your cousin," he said. "Your aunt is my mother." I looked at this maniac with my head askew. What he said was impossible. Fantastic, I'll do my best with this, Alpha. I'll get it just after the story. He looked young, maybe 12 years old. He stood very tall for his age. A purple wine-stained birthmark marred the back of his right hand. It was shaped almost perfectly like an eye, with a purple pupil in the centre of the outline of the lids. But his eyes were the most memorable part. They were dead and flat. They didn't look like any human eyes I'd ever seen. They were far more similar to a doll's eyes. The irises were a dark shade of green. He stared ahead, making constant eye contact with me, smiling widely as he walked forward with the knife in his hand. Aunt Gretchen, who was nearly 65 years old. This biologically couldn't have been her child, but maybe he was adopted. Maybe she took in some psychopath. None of it made any sense. "How are you, my cousin?" I asked. "Aunt Gretchen's too old to have kids." He laughed. "I'm not a normal child," he replied, walking forward slowly. "My father was an incubus who came through the hidden doorway in this house. Your aunt got pregnant with me only a few years ago. We Caribbeans grow fast. She was pregnant for a couple of months before giving birth to me. And I'm growing. I need lots of meat bill to grow at this rate. I need lots of blood for energy. You'll provide me with both. And of course, my father loves to eat the pineal gland." I reached into my pocket, my right hand as he talked. In a blur, I pulled out the police mace canister, raising it and sending a spear right into Campion's face. His pupils seemed to expand to cover the entire eye, even the whites. His eyes were suddenly pure black and full of hatred. "Oh my God," a feminine voice said, coming from behind me. "Did you hurt Kane?" I turned to look, seeing my aunt standing there, horrified by I had maced the psychopath who was about to stab me. "Aunt Gretchen," I screamed, Call the police, I'm hurt. This kid's gonna kill us. She shook her head sadly. I can't call the police, Jake, she said. That's my boy, my child, a beautiful Kane. He's bought to drink to get big and strong, and I'm gonna make sure he gets what he needs. Kay had fallen to the ground, retching and trying to wipe his eyes. I used the opportunity to get up slowly, pushing myself up a good arm. I saw spots and I felt dizzy. As Reggie was standing there, weeping, not paying attention to me at all. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, my right arm, dialing 911, and quickly putting it back in my pocket. Hopefully they would be able to track the location if I didn't make it out of here. I tried running towards the door. The Kane reached out one of his long, slender arms towards me, grabbing my right ankle. That's very funny, Neil. Grabbing my ankle. I nearly went flying forwards, but his grip was so strong that I just fell instead. I smashed my broken arm on the floor. My vision turned white as I shrieked in pain. Where do you think you're going? He asked, grinning, his black eyes still streaming tears. Your foot. You're not going anywhere. He brought his face down towards me, showing me countless sharpened teeth. Then he bent in my left hand, tearing off my pointer finger, shaking his head side to side as the last tendons and bones separated. The pain was unimaginable. A sharp, fiery sensation that roughed up my arm. I was working to free the small knife from the Swiss Army knife, where he bit me, and it flipped open just in time. It shoved the blade into the side of his neck, mashing it back and forth and trying to slice up towards his face. His expression turned from glee to fury and pain as he opened his mouth to scream, showing me the half-chewed, bloody finger on his pointed tongue. I thought I might lose consciousness at any moment between the compound fracture, the pain and the blood loss. As he backed up, I pulled the phone out of my pocket. There was a woman's voice on the other side, asking questions, saying, "Hello, sir, can you hear me?" Pardon me, abrupt. "Send help to 30C Roadrunner Avenue. Meet me," I yelled, before the attack commenced. James smashed his foot into my hand, with the phone in it, hitting it to the ground before spitting a bloody wad onto my face. The screen shattered and went black. Dark blood flowed down his neck in rivulets, soaking his shirt. His eyes seemed to shine with hatred. My aunt was standing in the doorway watching it all with dumb disbelief. "He's gonna kill me," I yelled. "Do something." She just shook her head from side to side, looking black, dissociated. "He's a good boy," she said, "and his daddy's coming." Using the last of my strength, I rolled over, brought my legs up to the back of his knees. He buckled to the floor as something huge in the kitchen stomped its way across the floor. We were scrambling on the floor. Kane tried to quickly get back up, me trying to recover my only weapon. Then I saw he had dropped the butcher knife in the fall. Grabbing up, I stabbed it as hard as I could into Kane's thigh. It went deep, striking bone. I pulled it back out. He was crawling away from me now, yelling in pain. I had gotten back to my feet, dizzy and swaying. Behind my head, I saw a horrible creature approaching. It had his wings folded down, like those of the bats, and his skin was sickly grey. His eyes were pure black, just like Kane's, when he grew mad, and his fingers and toes were all sharp claws. Then, before my eyes, it began to change. It took the form of a handsome man with flowing blonde hair. He looked like the stereotype or something from the cover of a romance novel, except for the sheer black eyes he still had. He seemed dead and emotionless as he looked down at me, then back up on my hand. "Pile off," it said, wrapping his arms around my hand. It began to kiss her, then started sucking through his nice, full of pointed teeth. She tried to fight it off, desperate, but she couldn't escape. Before my eyes, she shriveled up, the last of her health being siphoned off by the incubus. She withered into an ancient woman, her hair falling out, her head lolling as she died. Her wide staring eyes looked more sunken than ever, as if foreseeing out of a deep well. I ran then. My arm felt like it was on fire. The drops of blood from a missing finger followed behind me, but I ran, sprinting down the street. I hit the first siders a couple of minutes later. The police sat me down and called an ambulance, giving me water to sip as we waited. Other squad cars went to the house. finding the bodies of my aunt and uncle. But there was no sign of any supposed cousin, or the demon father who'd spawned them. They'd both escaped out the house, and were likely somewhere in our world, mixing among people would never guess at true nature. So if you see a tall boy with dead flat eyes, and a bus mark in the shape of an eye, you might want to go the other way. That was the story. My aunt gave birth to something not quite human. So the next